So, you've heard all those stories about not being able to tell identical twins apart, right? I call nonsense on that. Sure, they make great stories, but I've known quite a few sets of twins. So second grade, I met my first set of pair of boys my age, Peter and Paul, and I could tell them feng shui. Paul became a good friend throughout most of my school years, though I didn't like Peter as much. A year later, the first set of twin girls showed up, and while it was confusing for about a week, especially when they dressed the same, by the end of the month, most of us could easily tell Kathy and Karen apart. 3 years later, identical triplets entered the scene: Susan, Sheila, and Sandra. Sheila and I shared some classes, and I could always tell her apart from her sisters. I have to admit, I only had one class with Sandra until high school, and none with Susan, so it was harder to tell them apart, and I kept mixing them up until right before graduation. Sharon and Shirley, the brunette bombshells that stole my breath away, joined our high school in my freshman year when students from other middle schools started merging with ours. Then Charity and Chastity arrived in our junior year, though they were sophomores who had moved from out of state. Yep, I went to a huge high school. My graduating class alone had almost 900 students, and yes, out of those nearly 900 students, we had 2 sets of identical twin girls, 1 set of identical twin boys, 1 set of identical triplet girls, and another pair of twin girls a grade behind me. There were also a few fraternal twins, and a couple more sets of twins in the lower grades who I didn't meet, or, at least, don't remember, but the total student body had grown to over 3,500 by then. Maybe there was something in the water during the years when all these twins were born, and yes, it was one hell of a large high school. We were packed like sardines, and in the years since, the school district has split the student body into 3 different high schools, including my old one. It was the largest school in the state the year before I attended, and just the second largest after a small group during my senior year. The largest actually being the next high school, which eventually also got split into 3 schools a few years later as the school building boom continued. All that's to say, identical twins aren't so identical. If you know them well enough, you don't need intimate knowledge to tell them apart. A freckle here, a slightly paler complexion there, one twin weighing a few pounds more, and you can tell one's hair parting more towards the middle of their head, the other one limping a bit from when someone slid into him and broke his ankle in Little League back in 5th grade. Sorry again, Paul. So the little things, and someone who doesn't spend a reasonable amount of time around a set of twins might get confused, but anyone who knows them can tell them apart, even from a distance most of the time. For instance, Peter, Paul, and I all went to the same college after high school. I could tell it was Peter or Paul from across the quad, even when they were sitting down and wearing the same clothes. Never a mistake. And of course, as I hinted at before, there were Sharon and Shirley. Both were 5'3", shoulder-length dark brown hair, the bluest eyes I'd ever seen, and relatively fit figures, with well-proportioned but not overwhelming curves, a slim waist, and long legs. They were my type, but maybe not for everyone. Both had a nasal voice, and both tended to laugh too loudly at inappropriate jokes and too quietly at appropriate ones, if you know what I mean. Neither dressed to impress, but rather dressed nicely. Both could be considered too smart. Hey, I'll admit it right now, the triplet girls were in the top 10 of our class, blonde and smart, while Sharon and Shirley were probably tied for 3rd. So I'm not kidding when I say the girls who stole my breath might have just been pretty enough for most guys. Our class had some seriously beautiful girls. I met and got to know Sharon first of the 2 towards the end of freshman year and into sophomore year. Sharon and I had some classes together, and we were constantly paired up for group projects. Matthews and Miller, it's all about the alphabet. We hit it off. I got over my teenage insecurities and asked her out near the end of sophomore year. During that time, I didn't share any classes with Shirley, but we hung out sometimes when I was around Sharon, even going on a double date once. Between the 2, Shirley and I seemed to get along better than Sharon and I did. When we talked about music, Shirley knew more about the Beatles, while Sharon leaned more towards pop music. I was a Beatles fan. Sharon didn't get it when I mentioned that some animals are more equal than others. Shirley laughed and knew it was a quote from Animal Farm, and even called the woman who triggered it the typical kind of person we'd now call Karen, a dressed-up pig, in a way that added a pun. The whole time we talked, Sharon looked bored at first, then annoyed by the conversation. So one thing that struck me was how some twins and triplets would try their hardest to look as alike as possible. They'd wear the same clothes and even swap them. Just because one twin wore a particular shirt didn't mean the other wouldn't wear that exact same shirt a week later. Some twins would keep the same hairstyle, length, and so on. They'd go out of their way to make sure people knew they were twins. Sharon and Shirley, along with a few others, didn't. They did the opposite. Sharon kept her hair shorter, while Shirley let hers grow past her shoulders. Sharon liked wearing long earrings. Shirley preferred studs. Shirley had a white streak, box-shaped, on her right side, looking like a young Elvira. Sharon liked having a small streak of color on her left side. In other words, everyone could easily tell them apart. I didn't even have to mention the subtle differences. It never came up. For years, the girls just assumed the reason I could easily tell them apart was because they tried to look different. So like I said, Shirley and I seemed to have more in common than her twin sister and I, even though I was dating Sharon. But that didn't mean Sharon and I didn't have things in common. Remember that heart-pounding moment? The thrill? There was something about her that really excited and attracted me. The question that lingered while I was dating her was whether it was just physical or if there was more. A year later, the summer before senior year, one of my friends, Tommy Edgars, pulled me aside and asked if I was serious about Sharon. Turns out, he and she had shared a few classes, and while she wasn't dating him, she'd been flirting with him, and he liked her. And right then, I realized I didn't mind so much. Sure, she was my girl, but I realized I was more attracted to her twin than to her. And it wasn't about the flirting. I'd flirted with other girls in front of her, and she with other guys, but we'd never crossed any lines. I knew, and Tommy confirmed, that it was just harmless flirting. Heck, so I'd seen her do it a couple of times with Tommy at a few parties we'd gone to. So I sat down with Sharon alone in her living room. I'm pretty sure she was expecting something a little different than what happened. Sharon, I like you. I really like you. But I don't love you. I enjoy our time together, and I appreciate you. But I don't want to stand in your way of finding a guy who really loves you. I don't want to be a weight around your neck. I added that part about being a weight because we'd studied the rhyme of the ancient mare the year before in English class, and it had led to a few passionate makeout sessions before being interrupted, usually by Shirley, before I could take things further. Now, I know for sure, and suspected even then, that I heard a giggle from the entryway, just off the living room but out of sight, as Sharon responded, "Huh? I don't get it. What albatross?" That wasn't what I expected. I was expecting arguing, yelling, tears, maybe a slap, her pounding on my chest. And what I got was, "What albatross?" Tommy Edgars asked me if he could ask you out. He knows we've been dating for a while, and he's a good guy. He wants to ask you out. I told him I was okay with it. Please don't be mad at him if you're mad at me, I pleaded. So Davey, are you breaking up with me? Sharon asked, finally starting to catch on. Yes and no, we can still hang out. I just want to give you the chance to say yes when he asks. And I might ask someone else out too, I weakly suggested. Who? Who's this girl trying to steal you away from me? Sharon asked. Oh, nobody. Everyone likes you, and they wouldn't do that without talking to you like Tommy did. But there's someone I'm kinda into, and I think I should ask her out. What's her name? Sharon asked. Who's this girl you like more than me? Well, I was thinking I might ask Shirley out. She's a great girl, and I mean, you two are twins, but I don't want to stop Tommy from asking you out, and Shirley and I get along really well. I swear I heard a little gasp. Like I said, I know today there was someone listening from the entryway. So not wanting to go too far, Shirley admitted to me during our honeymoon, 3 years later, look, we'll double date. You and Tommy, me and Shirley, if you say the word. If something's wrong, you just mention albatross as a high sign and I'll get you and Shirley away from Tommy and back home. Deal, I offered. Tommy Edgars, he is kinda cute. Okay, but if he turns out to be a jerk, you owe me and I'm taking you back from Shirley. Sharon agreed. During the time I dated Sharon, Shirley went through a few different boyfriends. A few of them were decent guys, even 1 or 2 were my friends, but for the most part she dated lower tier guys, stoners below average guys, the also rans of high school. It was a big school. The competition for better girls and better guys could be fierce. I mean, I wasn't exactly the richest, smartest, most handsome, best athlete, but I excelled in 2 of the 4, was above average in one and average in the other, and still had girls make it clear they wanted me to ask them out. And of course, part of that could have been because I was supposedly a great date, a fun time, and a gentleman. Plus, I was supposedly a great kisser. My arms sore just patting myself on the back for that one. But all of that meant even above-average girls could get knocked out of the running for the best of the best. Weirdly enough, because that was exactly the phenomenon I'd heard about to describe how tough it was in a small high school to get a date, too much competition for too few choices. And Shirley had, to some degree, gotten ranked in the C-Girls group through no fault of her own. Finally, I called the house that evening, after giving Sharon some time to prepare and giving Tommy a heads up that she was waiting for him to call, and their mom, Ellen, was surprised when I asked for Shirley instead of Sharon. However, Shirley must have been waiting by the phone, because in less than 10 seconds after she said she'd call her, Shirley was on the line. Long story short, the double date never heard the word albatross mentioned. Tommy was smitten with Sharon, and she ate it up. Meanwhile, Shirley kept a smile on her face the whole time she was with me. But you know, I was the one who put the bug in Tommy's ear that Sharon liked him. Shirley confided in me softly by the end of the evening as the two of us danced. She didn't seem that into him until I said I could be her escape route if the date didn't go well. I puzzled. Well, I had to make it happen. I knew she thought he was cute. I mean, he's okay, but Shirley trailed off. You little sneak, was this all a ploy to flirt with your sister's boyfriend? I smiled, teasing her. The who me, Alfred E. Newman-style answer was all the confirmation I needed. It was a double wedding 3 years later. Tommy had gone to work with his dad, who owned a Toyota dealership in town, and I'd gotten a good job in IT, working with computers after earning an associate's degree and a few certifications. There were no best man or maid of honor, because each sister was the other's maid of honor, and Tommy and I were each other's best men. We walked out of the church as David and Shirley Miller, and Thomas and Sharon Edgars, though we did not go to the same destination for our honeymoon. Shirley and I went to Aruba, while Tommy and Sharon went to Cancun. In general, it was an amazing experience, learning from each other the pleasures of lovemaking, the sweet scent of arousal, the taste of her breasts, the joy of her sex. So both of us were virgins on our wedding day, and for that matter, Tommy and Sharon were too, but nothing was off limits during our 2 weeks in the hotshot sunshine. The first few times, Shirley's blowjobs weren't very good. By the end of the second week, with a lot of careful and diligent practice, they were amazing. Similarly, it took me a few times to find the man in the canoe, and she even stopped me once and told me I was doing it wrong those first few days. By the end of the second week, she was screaming my name, and I was getting looks when we staggered out of our room to sightsee and just rest. I heard the word honeymoon and a knowing nod following us from complete strangers more than once. Yep, unbelievable. All good things must end, and our time in Aruba soon came to a close, and we returned home. I told Shirley to wait in the car, the air conditioning still running, while I carried in the luggage, then returned, scooped her out of the car, and carried her across the threshold of our apartment as we settled into our new life. Even from those first few weeks back home, life became routine. Sex nearly every night, and almost every morning as newlyweds often do. Friday night was date night. I'd take Shirley out to dinner, and we'd try to find something, usually not expensive, to do for entertainment. We usually called it a night by around 11 o'clock and made love until about 2 or 3 in the morning, sleeping in until around 10 a.m. On Saturday night was also date night, but we double date with Tommy and Sharon. Tommy had a decent amount of money. They moved straight into a house, bought and paid for by his dad, and therefore had no rent or mortgage, even if they didn't make much more than we did in salary, so Tommy often subsidized the double dates. He paid for dinner 3 out of the 4 times we went out together, and I paid for it the 4th time. He confided to me that he felt he owed me for giving him the chance to pursue Sharon, plus now we were brothers-in-law. Every single day after we came back from the honeymoon, and I mean every day, Shirley and Sharon would call each other. It didn't matter if it was date night, though those calls were usually short, or if we were going to see them in a few hours on Saturday, or even if we'd seen them that day, sometimes happened on Sunday evenings if we went to visit their parents for dinner. So every day they called. Most of the time Shirley would talk in front of me, so I quickly realized that both shared pretty intimate details about each other's lives, including our sex life. So that was almost the start of our first real fight after marriage, until I realized Shirley was bragging about my skills, size, and performance. I didn't think I was particularly large, 7 inches long, 2 inches thick, and all I knew about my skills was Shirley seemed satisfied with them, and I was satisfied with what was happening. Perhaps 7 months after we came back from our honeymoon. I was out of the room but in the kitchen when I heard a conversation start, and it gave me goosebumps. "Oh yeah, Davy and I do it, like 3 times a night most nights. And it's so great, yeah, 3 times. No, we don't have time for more than one quickie in the morning most days. Most nights, yeah, he doesn't, and yeah, most nights. Wait, you and Tommy don't do it most nights? Yeah, see? Just once? Oh, what about, in the butt? Oh, yeah, Davy will clean himself if we do that before anything else. He says he wants to be able to kiss me when we make love. Yeah, I tried that once. I didn't like it, and Davy didn't seem to think it was all that special either, though. Every time? Like I said, Davy doesn't think it's particularly special, but he'll do it for me." She giggles softly, before we know. Yeah, that's how he gets me ready for back there. Not that I'm not always ready in the front. She giggles again. "Yeah, 3 times a night, usually. We start with him eating me, and then I'll blow him. Yeah, he eats me. It took him a while to figure it out, but oh my God. Yeah, so like I said, I blow him, but he'll stop me and come in, my girl. Then I blow him again. Yeah, we tried that once in Aruba. He didn't like it, but I admit it was kinda hot. Anyway, then I blow him again until he's really hard. And then I don't mind the taste, so yeah, I blow him until he's really hard. Then he licks me down there. Yeah, he tongues me there too. Like I said, I didn't enjoy doing it, but he loves it. And it makes it all nice and smooth. Yeah, and then he fucks me in the ass." Her tone shifts a little, teasing. "How big is he?" "Damn, girl, how do you even get that inside you? Sounds like he's got Davy beat in size, but too bad he can only do it once and be done." So after that, Davy cleans himself up, and I do too, with a washcloth, and then I give him a lazy, sloppy blowjob until he finishes. Oh yeah, I could go all night. Since he's already come twice, it takes him a while. Yeah, like a guy sucking on an all-day sucker. She giggles again. "But listen, you've got to make him clean himself with a washcloth if you're going to do that before you blow him. Look, I love Davy to death, but I'm telling you, it'll be a cold day in hell before I suck his striker after it's been in my ass without him washing it first. You seriously need to stop doing that." So it sounded like I was doing more than Tommy, but Tommy had a thicker striker, according to the sisters comparing notes. Like I said, the sharing of such intimate details about Shirley and me irritated me, but at least it seemed like I was getting the better deal in terms of frequency and quality, just not size. Still, I was a little mad she was spilling such private details, even to her twin sister. But for the sake of marital harmony, I bit my tongue and let it go. Now, during the years she and Tommy dated, Sharon had toned down her flirting with other guys. Not that she didn't do it, but Tommy was a bit jealous, and she was smitten. But with me, I seemed to be off limits, being her sister's boyfriend, even though I was her first. So it took me a while to notice when Sharon started subtly flirting with me again during our Saturday night double dates. Not much and not openly, but a little. After about a month of very light flirting from my sister-in-law, I finally bit the bullet and talked to Shirley one evening after we'd finished a particularly intense lovemaking session after coming home from a double date. "Shirley, I don't know how to say this, and I don't want to cause trouble. I swear I'm not encouraging her, but..." "Davy, honey, you don't think I know what you're about to say? She's my sister, I get it. So that's just how she is, and as long as you don't cross any lines, I don't mind. I mean, I already know how things would turn out if she ever really pushed you. I won that fight already." She smiled at me. "No, I won. I've got you. And Tommy won because he's got her. So we're both winners." I relaxed and smiled back. "Oh, you sweet-talking devil." Shirley reached out to grab me. She ended up making me orgasm twice more that night, more than usual because she'd worked me over so well. I almost couldn't perform the next morning. Almost. And life went on like that. I was married to the better twin, at least for me, and my ex-girlfriend was married to my friend, who seemed to be a horse he couldn't ride more than once a night. Both women seemed to be getting what they wanted, I guess, though sometimes I'd hear Shirley tell Sharon details that made Sharon sound a bit jealous. As for what Sharon said to Shirley, I don't know. I do know that sometimes after particularly long phone calls, Shirley would be more affectionate than usual, but I tried not to pry too much. We'd been married for 3 years when the first incident, looking back, happened. We were discussing my upcoming 25th birthday and whether I had any particular plans. "I'd like to keep it small, just us, or maybe just us and Tommy and Sharon. Maybe we'll do something fun like dancing or something a little more formal. What do you think?" was my answer. "That's a great idea. The four of us can take you to Ruth's Chris and then go dancing at the Sunlight Lounge. We'll dress up and make it a little prom night," Shirley exclaimed. Wait, I didn't get laid on prom night, you're holding me to that. It'd be nice to get a wedding night capper from my girlfriend to finish it off," I grumbled. "Hey, it might not be 100% a recreation, okay?" Shirley smiled, lovingly stroking my swelling package. After a suitable pause, discussing other, more private matters as we lay in bed, we resumed the conversation. "So you want formal, or do you just want me to wear a nice suit?" I asked her, nearly mindlessly. "It's your birthday, honey. What do you want?" "Oh, I'd get arrested if I had you wear what I want. Or you'd catch a cold," I joked back. "Oh, like how I'm dressed right now?" "Maybe with underwear, stockings, and high heels," I cheekily suggested. "I think I'll need to wear something over that lingerie, or you might have to fight off everyone who comes my way." "I'm not fighting anyone, and you better be the only one I'm conquering," I fired back, taking advantage of the playful tone she'd thrown at me. "I'm sure I'll find something to wear," she responded before starting another session. A few days later, when I got home, the first change happened. As I walked in from work, I immediately realized that both Shirley and Sharon were in the family room, open to the right of the front door. Shirley immediately stood up and walked toward me to give me a welcome home kiss, but Sharon was the one who surprised me first, at least initially. I looked at her and realized she had dyed out the colored streak in her hair and changed her hairstyle to match Shirley's shorter one, minus Shirley's signature Elvira-like streak. In my amazement, I'd never seen her without the dye. I turned to my wife and noticed she, too, had dyed out her Elvira streak. Both girls were now their natural hair color. "Hey, what happened to my sexy goth girl and her twin friend?" I joked. "We both wanted to try something new, something different. What do you think?" Shirley replied, with Sharon nodding behind her. It was then that I realized Shirley's hair length had changed too. Both girls now had the same short, pixie-style cut, right above their ears. Plus, that white streak was starting to make me look older. And I like my age just the way it is," my wife continued. "Wow, no one will be able to tell you two apart anymore," I complimented them, though it was my husbandly duty. I'd actually fallen in love with the look she'd cultivated over the years I'd known her. Proof of the old saying, a man marries a woman hoping she'll never change. A woman marries a man hoping he will change. So my comment made the two twins glance at each other, which made no sense, but still gave me the chills. "We wanted to show you our new dresses to get ready for your birthday next week," Shirley excitedly said. "All right, what do you want me to do?" I asked. "Just sit and wait," Sharon said before both girls got up and left their room together. I'd heard that a man spends 1/10 of his married life waiting for his wife to finish getting ready. That's how it felt. It had to be at least 30 minutes before the two returned. "Ta-da! What do you think?" Sharon asked, striking the classic pose, wrists out, left leg bent at the knee and forward while she turned a quarter to the right, keeping her head aimed at me, classic showgirl pose. Shirley eyed her a moment, then struck the identical pose beside her. "I'll start with the dress style." They were identical, mid-thigh length with a slit running up past the top of their thigh-high pearl-finished French knit stockings, revealing the lace band at the top where the skirt peeked out of the slit. Around their waists, a wide matching ribbon band with a large bow on the front right hip cinched their waists. Above, the bodice gave way to a classic 1950s halter top, tied at each shoulder, plunging down just below the belly button, revealing the smooth softness between their breasts, separated but still pushed up. The backs, from what I could see, were bare, ending in a scalloped effect just above the ribbon waistbands. Both wore peep-toe heels, about 2 inches high, complementing their dress colors, Shirley's being blood red, Sharon's turquoise blue. Shirley had chosen to wear the diamond earrings I'd given her the previous Christmas, while Sharon wore dangling silver leaf earrings that spun in circles. Except for the dress colors, shoes, and earring styles, they were as identical as they could be. From their perspective, they knew I could tell them apart by their wedding and engagement rings and their earrings. Tommy's relatively wealthy father had allowed Tommy to buy a 2.5-carat princess cut stone, with smaller diamonds surrounding it. My relatively meager wealth allowed me to buy a 1-carat cushion cut diamond. However, both girls always seemed pleased with the gifts. So realizing they were dressed identically, I decided to joke with them. "Oh boy, which one of you am I going to throw over my shoulder and carry upstairs to make love to?" I didn't mean anything by it. It was just one of those funny-at-the-moment comments a guy makes when he's flirting and feeling playful and funny. "Oh me," Sharon answered instantly. "No, my husband's going to carry me upstairs," Lady Shirley responded just as quickly, with a tone of relief at my comment. I said, standing up and moving over to scoop up my wife. As I started heading to the stairs, I called over my shoulder to Sharon, "Tell Tommy he's a lucky man, too." The rest of the week leading up to my birthday on Saturday was pretty normal, waking up, making love, heading to work, missing my wife while working hard, coming home, having dinner, and making love again. Peaceful sleep filled the remaining hours, and in general, life was great. Friday night's date almost killed me. Shirley tried to squeeze every lap drop out of me, pushing me harder than usual. I swear I even said "uncle" at one point, but like a demon, she ignored me, continuing her wicked ways. And then she did it again. I think I actually passed out and fell asleep around 3:30 a.m. I was woken up the next morning to the most wonderful birthday greeting a man could ever wish for. A sexy, beautiful woman sucking his striker in the morning, near noon. When I finally stirred enough, aside from my rock-hard erection, Shirley popped off me, slid up my body, and smiled at me. "Good morning, birthday boy. I've got a special present for you today," she smiled as she lowered herself down onto myself and enveloped me in her warm, tight tunnel. So I swear she moaned as she sank down, pulling me all the way inside. It wasn't until about 1 p.m. that I finally managed to crawl out of bed to take a morning piss, and when I returned, Shirley was rushing to get dressed. "Hey, what's going on? Why are you getting dressed? We've still got hours before we meet Tommy and Sharon. I thought you'd be giving me my gift right now," I teased her. "You'll get your gift later, I promise. But Sharon and I have some things to do for a few hours," Shirley said as she put on her shoes and hurried out the door. The sound of the apartment door opening and closing made me realize I was spending my birthday alone, a situation I hadn't expected. I spent the next few hours in front of the TV, playing PlayStation, a rare treat, though not the kind of fun I really wanted. During that time, I got a few happy birthday calls from my parents, from Shirley, and even from my boss who, told me I could take Monday off with him. However, as much as I enjoyed some PlayStation time, it felt a bit lonely knowing the most important person in my life had ditched me on my birthday. Shirley stormed back in around 5, cutting it a bit close, as we had reservations at Ruth's Chris at 7:10, and I still needed to shower and get dressed, and I assumed she did too, with a bit of grab-ass time that we usually indulged in while getting ready for date night. We'd be cutting it close. Imagine my surprise when I looked at Shirley and saw she was already showered, had fresh makeup on, her hair redone, and even her nails freshly painted. I thought she was nuts, as she hadn't showered before leaving that morning, which meant she should have smelled like sex all night. Not a bad thing, but still, or she would have ruined her special makeup and hair unless she limited herself to a literal whore's bath. Noticing my look as I stared at her, she sighed and started toward me. "Sharon and I went to a quick spa day. That's why I had to rush out earlier. All I need to do is change my clothes. Meanwhile, Mr. Miller, perhaps you should go shower, shave, do the whole 'I have a hot date, I want to impress' thing." I don't need to impress her, she's already a sure thing because it's my birthday. It's my birthday, hoo, I grinned, doing a little dance. "Oh, is that so, huh? Sure thing, huh? Well," she started, then began singing. "You say it's your birthday?" "It's my birthday too, it's gonna be a good time." "Happy birthday to you," she repeated, knowing I loved the Beatles. I grabbed her and pulled her close, feeling her momentarily hesitate as I pulled her in before she melted into me, taking a deep breath, then pushing me away. "Damn, I thought you showered after this morning? You don't remember using soap?" Well, I was hoping someone would join me, but when she didn't, I was hoping for a second chance right now, I explained before glancing at her freshly applied makeup. "I guess that's not happening until after the date, huh? Go shower and then we can discuss it, but no promises." I rushed into the master bathroom and started getting ready, taking extra care to ensure my face was baby smooth. I didn't want Shirley to have any issues with razor burn keeping her from sitting down the next day. I even spritzed on cologne, Usually she preferred my natural scent, but on special occasions. When I emerged from the bathroom, my suit was already laid out on the bed, and Shirley was fully dressed. Hey, she started ahead of me, except for her shoes. Looking at the time and knowing we had to meet Tommy and Sharon before heading to the restaurant, I hurried to finish getting ready. All the while, I kept sneaking glances at the vision in red. For some reason, she kept her back turned to me mostly, which was unusual when we dressed up together, though she did ask for my help putting on her necklace, a small pendant necklace I'd given her for our first Christmas as an official couple. I'd replaced it twice with more expensive ones, but it was what she'd always wear on date nights. I pulled her close and gave her ear a gentle nibble as the pendant nestled between her cleavage. "Mum, you should have worn the ruby necklace I gave you. It'd go better with that dress," I whispered in her ear, gently biting her small diamond earring and robe, gazing at us in the mirror. I knew it was a futile reason. She always wore the pendant on date nights, saved the pearls for family gatherings, and the rubies, it seemed, for funerals and weddings. Except our wedding, she wore the pendant for our wedding. Then she surprised me. "Oh," she began, then reached behind her neck to undo the necklace, which shocked me. Actually, with this dress, maybe no necklace at all would be better. "Hey, I'm going to text Sharon and let her know we're about to head out. I'll meet you in a minute." She joined me a few minutes later, and I escorted her out to our car, holding the door for her as she climbed in, giving me a near full view of her legs, and much more. I knew the stockings were thigh-highs, no garter, and she was wearing black panties with silver thread. Like I said, she gave away everything, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't intentional, that high of a slit. We made light, playful small talk most of the way to the parking lot near the restaurant, where Tommy and Sharon were clearly waiting. So as I moved around the car to her door, she stopped me as the door opened before stepping out. "Davey, I want to stop taking my pills in 2 months. That'll be the perfect time, so this might be your last birthday before you're a father. Or I might be as big as a whale by this time next year. I want tonight to be special for you." My jaw nearly hit the pavement as she dropped that bombshell on me. Logically, I understood why she wanted to wait a couple more months, and why she waited until we were at the restaurant to tell me she didn't want to bring her biggest baby into the hottest months of the year, and she didn't want an accident when she shocked me with the idea. But she also wanted to tell me now, so we could celebrate in grand style with dinner and dancing. Smiling, she took my arm, closing the car door behind her, and led me toward Sharon and Tommy. The look on Sharon's face told me she knew what Shirley had just told me, while Tommy seemed clueless as to what had me so stunned. Tommy dragged the news out of me after we sat down and ordered, or rather, Shirley ordered for me. I was still kind of in shock. His reaction was pure excitement. "Oh, that's amazing news. Sharon and I just decided to start trying too. This is our first month," he admitted. "We're really excited about trying. Man, their parents are going to go nuts if they have 2 grandbabies in a row. And if Sharon gets pregnant quickly, Shirley can use the maternity clothes, since she'll be a few months behind, at least until the end of the pregnancy. Hey, dinner's on me. It's your birthday, buddy." The bone-in rye they brought me was amazing. As was the rest of the meal, we lingered a bit to finish dessert, and the whole time, Shirley played footsie with me under the table, sitting to my left. Sharon sat to my right. Tommy sat across from me while talking to Tommy and Sharon. At the same time, Sharon was being her old self again, lightly flirting with me, tapping my arm, leaning forward so I could catch glimpses down her dress, using the whole routine women do when they're trying to get a guy's attention. So meanwhile, Tommy was just Tommy, completely oblivious, not noticing how the girls were flirting and outright dirty at times, as my wife's dainty foot slipped out of her shoe and massaged my quickly growing erection through my pants. I was the one holding up our departure for a few minutes because of that. But time passed, and by around 8:45 I could tell the waiter was ready for us to give up the table for other customers, and I finally calmed down enough for us to leave. Since Sunlight Lounge was only a block away, we walked from Ruth's Chris to the lounge. For the rest of the evening, I spent most of the time on the dance floor, dancing at least half the songs with Shirley or Sharon. Tommy danced maybe 1 in 5 songs with either Sharon or Shirley, but we traded partners often since both women loved to dance. While Tommy didn't, I ended up being the main dance partner for both twins, with Tommy taking his turn occasionally. We also had some drinks, but nothing excessive. The bottle of wine at the restaurant had started us off just fine, and we didn't go beyond that, just enough to feel good and have a great time. It wasn't until around 12:30 that Shirley realized how late it had gotten. "Oh, Pooh, I was hoping to give you a present at midnight, but we need to get home before I can do what I really want," she lamented, before glancing over at Sharon. "Maybe we should go." Sharon nodded lightly and then said out loud, "But first I have to use the ladies' room. Care to join me?" Both girls stood up and made their way to the restroom together. I've never understood why girls can't go to the bathroom alone. They always have to go in packs. "Have you figured that out, Dave?" Tommy asked me as we watched them walk off. "When I figure it out, I think they'll give me the Nobel Prize and put a statue of me up in D.C., David Miller, the first man to understand women." So we both laughed at that. It took them longer than usual to return from the restroom, and something felt off. I was still a little tipsy, but I couldn't quite figure out what was wrong, but something definitely was. So the girl in the stunning red dress came up to me, plopped down on my lap, wrapped her arms around my neck, and slid her tongue into my mouth. "Get a room, you two," her sister teased, tugging Tommy up to his feet. "See you later, Davy," she called over her shoulder as she swayed her turquoise-clad hips out the door, pulling Tommy behind her, hinting at our planned dinner at the girls' parents' house on Sunday to celebrate my birthday, a little in a few hours. I was still puzzling over what had happened when I felt her hand pulling me up, dragging me toward the door. "I've been dying for this all night. I can't wait to get you home and give you your real birthday gift," she whispered, biting my ear as she drove us back to the parking lot, a few minutes behind her sister. The dim streetlights after midnight flickered as she yanked me toward the car. When I got in, a flash of purple panties caught my eye, reminding me of something nagging at the back of my mind. I wasn't drunk, let me make that clear. I was tipsy. I wasn't legally safe to drive, but I was still safe enough, although I was feeling a little fuzzy. I only crashed into 3 cars, 2 pedestrians, and a dog. Just kidding. I got us home perfectly fine, not even scraping a curb, and when I actually got to our parking space, except for the fuzzy feeling haunting my mind, I was fully sober but still happy. But the unease nagging at the back of my mind was gnawing at me. Something was wrong, and I couldn't relax while thinking about it. I kept glancing over at the woman beside me, knowing that whatever it was, it involved her, but I just couldn't figure out what it was. However, I take back what I said about the safe driving part: her leg, the top of her thigh-high stocking, and the way, after about a mile of driving, she began stroking my thigh and working her hand up to my crotch, grabbing my balls while she gently stroked me through my pants. That was somewhat distracting, to say the least, but I still managed to focus on driving. So the streetlights flashing overhead in slow-motion flickers cast a moving strobe effect on my view of her as I glanced at her. Her smile, second nature to me, seemed off. She looked, and I'm trying to be delicate here, like she was just a little bloated from that time of the month, though I knew her cycle had been just a week ago. Her hand, as she held mine, felt softer, her voice slightly huskier. When I held the door open for her and she stepped into her apartment, with a gentle pat on her butt, I was sober enough, in a place bright enough, for a long enough time to focus. The woman, slipping her dress off in my living room, baring her chest, was not my wife. As I realized Sharon was trying to seduce me, the thought that sent a cold, sober chill down my spine was, if Sharon's here, where the hell is Shirley? My usually sharp brain clicked like an old Rolodex, trying to find the number. Click, 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 bing. At that moment, my stomach and brain synchronized, and I ran unsuccessfully for the bathroom, trying to hold back the remains of dinner, dessert, and the drinks I'd consumed earlier as they violently returned. Instead, it was like something out of an old horror movie, The Exorcist, except my head was slumped onto my chest, not spinning 360 degrees on my neck, and it wasn't green pea soup. Even though I was now covered in vomit, on my knees, head thumping against the toilet bowl, Sharon still rushed to my side, not realizing what was unfolding. "Davy, baby, what's wrong? What the hell just happened?" she asked, trying to comfort me the way Shirley would have. I sputtered. "I think we all know what's wrong." Gagging, "Sharon," I forced out. What do you mean, baby?" Sharon went home with Tommy. She tried to lie. "You think I'm too dumb to tell you two apart when I'm sober?" I accused. "Davy, you're scaring me." I could see the real fear in Sharon's eyes as she realized, maybe for the first time, that they'd screwed up, And the purple panties confirmed that since Shirley had left the house in black ones with silver thread, or that they'd overestimated how much they could fool me, which they did, but only when a husband doesn't know his wife as intimately as I knew mine. The slow horror of being caught was dawning on her, a grim reality setting in. "Davy, you're sick. Let me get you to bed and take care of you." She tried to escape the mess, hoping she could salvage it. When she reached for me, the enormity of the betrayal finally hit me. "Get your filthy hands off me. I want you out of my apartment. Tell my soon-to-be ex-wife she can drop dead too. Oh, and I'll make sure Tommy knows what you two did as well." Sharon backed away, horrified by what I'd said. "Davy, what are you talking about?" "It's me," she tried yelling. "You don't think I know my wife and my sister-in-law, Sharon? How stupid do you think I am? Hell, I might not even have to tell Tommy. He might be talking to my slutty wife while we're talking. You're no damn Xerox copy, Sharon." And with that, the light in her final deception flickered out. "I just wanted to see what I'd given up when I let my sister take you, Davy. She's in love with you, and she's raving about how great you are in bed. Tommy's a one-and-done guy. He makes me happy, but I wanted to see what it was like with a guy who could go as much as you can." Sharon pleaded. "Nah, not good enough, and I don't believe that's all. I know you've been telling Shirley that Tommy's packing a monster or some crap like that, so while you're going for quantity and quality, she's going for size, ha." I yelled back. I could see she was about to lie to my face. "No, Davy, she just slept, didn't have sex. The plan was for her to get a headache, so." "I don't lie to me anymore, Sharon. The plan was for you two to switch tonight, and I guess switch back tomorrow at your parents' house, right?" No, Davy, of course not. She lied again." "And don't lie again. Looks like Shirley caught you up in that because I didn't catch on until we got back here." Her bare shoulders slumped, meaning she finally accepted the inevitable. "Damn it, even your boobs aren't the same. She's got a freckle right there." I pointed at the spot on her left breast, which was perfectly smooth, not a freckle in sight. "You don't think a man in love can recognize his own wife's body?" "Davy, stop it, please. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I just wanted to know what I gave up. Please don't tell Tommy." Sharon was now in full damage control mode, trying to salvage anything she could. "Don't tell my best friend that his wife tried to cheat on him with me, and that my wife was in on it. Not only no, but hell no, I'm blowing this whole thing wide open during the divorce." "Divorce? You don't know what you're saying, Davy? Calm down, you don't want to divorce Shirley?" Sharon's shocked expression told me that they hadn't just thought they'd never get caught. They hadn't even considered what the consequences would be if they did. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm divorcing her, and I'm not keeping it quiet. You don't think I know you two have been talking about Tommy's size versus my endurance? That's deep, private stuff, and it pissed me off when I realized you were gossiping about it. Seeing you go further and pull this shit? No way. You might as well call your sister when you leave and tell her she's homeless and without a husband. And if I were you, I'd tell Tommy before I get the chance. You might, just might, save your marriage. Although, if I know Tommy, you and Shirley better start looking for an apartment you can afford." I watched as Sharon, tears streaming down her face, gathered up a few of her things as she walked to the door. It was too late for her apologies or Shirley's regrets. A soft click of the door closing, and I was left alone with my thoughts. A few minutes later, I heard Shirley's car start in the driveway as Sharon drove back to her soon-to-be former home. About 15 minutes later, my phone lit up, and I saw that it was Tommy calling. I answered, "Hey, Tommy." "Davy, what the hell is going on?" "Both girls are locked in the living room, screaming and crying." "What happened when you got home?" Knowing Tommy, I sighed. "Tommy, we need to talk, just you and me, right now, but you need to come over here, just the two of us, to talk. For now, just know that Shirley and I are done, it's over." Tonight was going to be a long night, and this was shaping up to be the worst birthday ever.